Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us again. We are about to do our 10th webinar, which is all about how to manage stock in Markus. It's one of those questions that comes up quite regularly when we do an implementation. People sort of go, oh, do you do stock control? And well, yes, we do. It's one of those things that we would implement once you're live in the system and you're settled with the way things work. And this session today is hopefully going to cover off all the things that it does and how you might go about setting it up. So first of all, is it for you? Do you need stock control? Is stock control something you need? How you would go about it, and then how we would work with you to set those levels. And then once you're live with it, how you maintain stock across all your stores and other operative locations. And then things such as reporting on stock levels, or even just using it to manage restock levels and reorder quantities for stock items. So all those things on there I will aim to cover in today's session. But to answer the first question of, do I need stock control? When we often go back to you with the questions that are on the screen there, we sort of say, if you can answer yes to these questions, then there's a good chance that stock control is for you. If you can't, then it might be that we need to help you address some of those things on screen first before you actually start with full-on stock control. Stock control itself will only work if your stores or any areas that are holding any of your stock are not accessible to engineers. Of course, that doesn't include their own van, but if you've got a storeroom where everyone can just walk in and out and take the stock whenever, stock control won't work because you'll never keep track of it. So with that, the second point down, is there someone managing that stores? And when people come in asking for stock for their van, is that signed out by a person? Within this, office staff need to be familiar with raising purchase orders, so that when you want to get stock into the system via a purchase order, that happens seamlessly. So if you're not doing purchase orders on us to get your orders for your suppliers, then you'd need to look into doing that. And then finally, the engineers on the mobile app. When you first go live, particularly if you don't have commonly used van stock items and parts lists, we normally give you a free type text box to type the manual codes of what you actually used on jobs. The next step after that would be to give your engineers a list of commonly used codes where they can then get familiar with recording part codes on jobs rather than just free typing. So once you've sort of got all those things in place, then stock control could definitely be for you. And so how do we go about implementing it? Well, we work with you. We'll work with you to get it going. We'll come up with a little plan like this. This is a copy of a plan. The dates aren't right because I've moved them to make them start at the start of a month. This was done earlier this year around the springtime, but this plan roughly is how it goes. So you can see that on your screen. I'm not going to read through everything, but essentially there's bits that you need to do, there's bits that we need to do, there's bits that we can help you with. We will supply templates for all the things that you need, but there is a sort of a phased plan to it. You wouldn't want to just say we need to go live with stock control next week, because without the proper training, without the proper setup, it's going to fall flat on its face. And of course, those dates and time periods that I've got there in the week splits are not set in stone. If you are very well on and you've got most of your stock templates all set up ready to go, then of course we can tweak those dates. But that's a rough plan for someone that's not got anything on the go at the moment. Part of the plan that you saw on the previous side is about data preparation and sort of the collation of your own data. We will supply files. I mentioned that before. We will supply any templates that you need. We try to be very clear what the sort of data you need in order to get it going. So I can see here on the very top, the first bullet point has got a unique in red. So your stock list, when we say a unique list of products, the example below it, the 13 amp double socket in white, of course you could buy one of those from Screwfix, you could buy it from TradePoint, you could buy it from CEF, a whole host of places, and essentially what you have, regardless of where you get it from, usually is the same white plug socket with 2 sockets on it and a 13 amp fuse. So the product codes from all those different suppliers will be different because of course they're their own supplier code. You wouldn't want to create 20 different types of 13 amp plug socket when in reality they are the same thing. So to create your stock list, you would create a part code, your own individual part code for your company for that item. And then when you buy them from the suppliers, you obviously buy the supplier's product, but it comes into stock as being your product. So you would increment your stock levels for the white plug sockets regardless of where you get them. How do you get your stock list together? Well, of course, if you've got a storeman or anybody managing the stores, they can go in and they can do that kind of thing. You could do an inventory list of van stocks. You might have a supervisor that just knows what you use all the time. You could look at what your operatives have recorded on visits, but that could be a little tricky if they've been using the manual free type box. There'd be a bit of manual work there. But if you've got a regular supplier, you could ask them for your order history for a period, say a year, and they can often supply that to you, usually in a spreadsheet form. You could take that data, do a bit of pivot tables, bit of analysis on it, and then that's your stock list that you could start with as your initial stock list to form stock control. But again, we'll work with you on those sorts of things as well, and we can help you with your spreadsheets and getting the data into the system. So, as I say, we work with you to set initial stock levels and we train you how to do it. And once stock is set up and you're fully trained and you know how you're doing it and all the levels have been set, the way that you get stock into the system is by purchase orders. You of course can manually tweak things, but it's always going to be an order to a supplier where on that delivery of the order, the delivery triggers the stock to be increased in your stock wherever it happens to be. So that could be an order for collection by an operative. So then when they collect it, the operative stock increases the moment they say they've got it. Or it could be an order that's gone to stores as well. In terms of raising your POs and getting things into the system then, I'm going to do a demo of all this, but I'd like to just show you that screenshot. This is what stock control looks like once you've got stock levels set in the system. So I've just been talking about how you get stock levels sorted out. Well, that screenshot there is showing you a store and some items, a quantity in stock, obviously the value of that stock quantity, and then we've set over on this side here reorder quantities and reorder levels. So what I mean by those is when the reorder level, this one here, that's the level that the stock item can get to before the system would consider reordering more, and the reorder quantity is the amount that this stock will be ordered once you hit that order level. So this one here, when it hits 4, we'll order 16. When it hits 3, we'll order 15. That kind of thing. It is important to note that those levels, once you've set them up, can be edited by yourselves really easily. Demonstration time. I'm not going to demonstrate how to raise purchase orders. There are far more exciting videos on that topic on our YouTube channel, and we've probably already got sessions sorted out to show you how purchasing works. So I've got a couple of pre-prepared examples of a purchase order that one is going to be for an operative to collect and another one for a store delivery. However, stock control, once you go live, you're going to get a stock button. And on that stock button, we've got various reports and various things that can trigger stock movements, which we'll cover in just a minute. But you've got a report of stock levels. So I'm just going to show you a stock level for a storeroom of room 14 at Epic Systems. I hit search, there's no stock. So I've got absolutely no stock in room 14 at the moment. Now, in my purchase orders, I happen to know I've got 2 purchase orders here, as in true Blue Peter fashion, I suppose. One of which is a delivery address of a operative called Alan. This one here is a delivery address of Stephen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in the back office now, using the purchase orders, the recording of a delivery for a purchase order and what that does. So let's start with this one. This is an order raised for a collection by operative by someone called Stephen. So if I hit record delivery, I'm going to pop a delivery note in. Just going to choose a date and I'm going to mark it fully delivered. Just going to say everything's been delivered. Hit continue. So just so we can see that, we've now got the delivered quantities are all set here in our purchase order. If I go to our stock levels report now for that particular person, so if I go stock location of Stephen, hit search, we can see I've got a bunch of stock items that if you were paying attention to the PO or spotted any part codes, you'll see that those are all items on there. We talked about store location and operative location. I've just done one for an operative. If I go to my homepage, you may all be familiar with the uploading of spreadsheets to import jobs, perhaps, maybe even if you've been importing certificate payments and that kind of thing. One of the options you've got is an order template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to import a purchase order from a spreadsheet. I'm not going to cover this entirely, as in I'm not going to show you the entire file, but I've got here a file which is a small stock import, and I want that to go to the generic order importer. So very similar to any other import process, you choose your file, you choose what process you want to run, and then you hit upload. And the file I've just uploaded has created a brand new purchase order with reference TRV001, and those part codes down there, I'll just slow that down a bit, you can see there's quite a lot of part codes there. So let's go right back to the top. We can see the delivery address for this order was room 14. And if you remember when I did our stock level report, so I'll do it again, room 14, no stock. I go back to our purchase order and I record the delivery to say that we've had all those products delivered to our stores, fully delivered, and then I hit continue. That's now delivered that particular order. So in our stock level report for room 14, when I update the filters, we can now see I've got 199 individual items and their stock levels, and everything's now set in the system. So that's the back office side, how you get stock in the system. You raise a purchase order. It must be for a product code. You can see my example here. It's an EP code. I've called that EP for epics. And that particular one is a fan motor. We'll remember that code there with 48 on the end because I'm going to come back to it later on. So raising a purchase order and recording the delivery will, in a stock control world, increase the stock levels of each of the products on that order by whatever you ordered. Next bit, on our mobile app, in our main menu, there is a stock item. Now, some of you will have some of these items already. Don't worry if this thing's in there you don't have. This is our demo system where we have pretty much everything turned on. The stock menu, however, we would make visible to you if you're going live with stock control. And in here, I'll talk about all the different options shortly, but you've got a couple of options, and the one that we're going to use at the moment is the collect order from supplier. Now, before I do, I'm just going to show you the summary of stock held. So at the moment, I have no stock. I'm currently operative Alan, and there is no stock on my device at all. I've got no stock in my van. If I do collect order from supplier, and I select the supplier address, any orders you've got on the go at the moment for delivery or collection rather by an operative will be listed here. So I know that I want to go to this particular supplier of TRV. Using the little search there on the orders, any live orders for that supplier will show in the search results. There's just one at the moment, so I can click on that. And what that does, as you can see, it's populated all the items that I'm about to receive here. Of course, if I'm collecting the items and they say, "Oh, really sorry, we haven't got 10, we've only got 5," you can increase the quantities, but you can also decrease them here, and you can change the rates as well if that needed to. But usually that shouldn't be the case. And we also present, if it's relevant to you, a serial number for anybody using serialized stock items, where you have to record the serial number for the items that you're collecting. You can pop a collection reference in, so I'm just going to put test for now because we are just simply testing. And then, assuming that the order's complete, I press accept. Is the order finished? Yes. I can choose how I'm going to pay for it, so I'm going to go it's on account, and then that has now marked that order as collected. So if I just run update stock information to do a bit of a dial, you can see there that's done a successful dial back to our office. If I just click quickly on the summary of stock held, we can now see that I've got a whole bunch of stock items here. Now, in the search box at the top, I can use the search to search for keywords or product codes anywhere within that, and you can see what's happened there as well. So you can see what you've got on your stock on your van just by using the summary of stock held. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a little demo of how we use the different items in the stock menu. So we mentioned a couple of these already, but we'll start at the top. Buy from supplier. This is shown because it's our demo system, but the majority of our customers never reveal this button to engineers because they don't want it. This would actually raise a PO from the mobile app. So basically the engineer turns up to the suppliers and raises their own purchase order essentially. Restock order we'll come back to. Collecting from a depot. So if you've arrived at the stores, you've turned up at your stores and you are collecting an order, you can record the collection from the mobile app yourself, but all these can also be done in the back office as well. So collecting from depot, you select where you're getting the stock from. So I'm just going to say I'm going to get it from room 14, and then you click add, and basically you select the items that you've picked from stores. So as I say, this can be done and is as more often not done in the office by the person in stores who is issuing the stock out, but you can do your collections from the mobile app. So you basically go, I'll have one of those. Do you want to add any more stock items? No, I just want to collect that one thing. Do accept, save that transfer, and that's now done. And the stock level for that item has been collected from the depot and is now present on our van stock. I will revisit our van stocks summary of stock held in a minute just to show you everything as well. But return to depot does exactly the opposite of what we've just seen. You select where you want to send the information back. You choose the part that you want to send back. And then that will then save that. And that item has now been returned back to the depot because you've used it, say, on a job. Transfer to another operative does exactly what you might think. If you bump into another operative whilst out and about and say, oh, have you got any extras of these because I really need one? They go, yes. You can choose your operative and you can choose the part code that they might have and transfer that from them to you. Collecting an order from a supplier you just saw. That's where you can select the suppliers of any orders you've got on the go. If you remember, I had an order for TRV. I no longer have that because I've fully collected that order. So these are still live. I could still collect orders from those companies, but only orders that are live that you've got on the go at the moment will show in there. So the summary of stock held, that is what you have in stock at the moment. So as again, we saw that before, you can search that list and you can see what you've got. And finally, updating stock information. You saw me use that before. That performs a connection to the back office where it will then synchronize your stock with the office, just like a normal dial. Using stock. Now, a bit difficult to do a demo that doesn't involve me flowing straight through a job. So if you'll just bear with me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to accept a job and pretend that I've done all the things properly as an engineer. Materials screen is where it all changes. So a lot of you will be used to seeing a big white box on that screen where you can simply free type what you've used on the job. Now we have an add button. When we click add, the items that are then displayed are all items that are currently shown as being in stock on your device. So like you saw on the stock menu, you can search for items. If you bear with me, it goes a bit slow when I'm on Zoom. I do apologize. There we go. So I can choose all the different things I've got on my stock items. This one, because I did say I was going to use it. I use that one and click add. If I then go back into our materials list, any items you add will be listed where you can then increase or decrease the quantities that you've used. And so then simply hitting next and ending your job accordingly, that will finish the job and will use those items on the job. So if I go back to our stock menu now and I do summary of stock held, You can see the EP0048 that I just used was previously 10 in stock and is now showing that I've only got 9 left. In our back office system now, if I click here and go stock levels, and I could of course show all stock levels, but I'm going to do is I'm going to show a stock level for a particular product. So I'm going to type in the 48 code, and I want to see how many I've got in stock of that. So we can see here that in our store in room 14 there are still 10, but Alan, our operative, has got 9. Now over here there's a movements button. When you click on that, that loads an extra report behind the scenes which shows all the stock movements for that item. So what we can see here in a stock control world is that we did our purchase order from TRV and Alan collected 10 of them. Room 14, if you remember when I collected an item from depot, issued 1 to Alan, which meant at that moment I had 11 in stock. And then at this point, we very quickly, almost a minute later, Alan sent it back to room 14 because he didn't need it. And then a couple of minutes later on the job that you just saw me do at 34 Acton House, I used an item there. So you can see the history of all the movements of every product as to how they have been used on a particular job, or whether they've been sent to a stores or transferred to an operative. And you can also see, of course, like this one, where they started their life out. That's your stock level and stock movement report. Let's just do another example. In our back office, that's the 2 reports we've just talked about. Let's say I wanted to return some stock to depot on behalf of an engineer. He didn't do it on his mobile app. I want to do it for them. So let's do return stock to depot. So who's the operative? Well, I'm going to use me as the test case. I'm Alan. And we're going to return it to room 14. And I'm going to grab let's use the same part code for clarity. We're going to take one of those. It populates automatically the quantity that Alan has in stock to be able to return. So I could return all 9, but let's say I want to return 5 of them. When did I do it? Well, if I'm backdating this for when we did it on Friday, we could do that, but let's just set it to now and then hit continue. And we can see below this sort of the fields that you can use to perform that action, we also show recent movements of that product. So you can see what's going on. If I go back now and do a stock level report for the same product, you can already guess what's going to happen. Alan now shows us having 4 because he had 9 and we took 5 off him. The stores had 10, but we returned 5, so now they've got 15. So essentially we are literally moving numbers about as you'd expect when you're moving stock about. So the same would apply for the other actions that you saw me doing on the mobile app that are also possible here on the back office as well. I won't do issue stock from depot. I'm sure you can work out what that does. Transfer stock does exactly the same as what you think it does on the mobile app, where we say I want to go from Alan to Derek, part code 48, quantity 4. Yeah, absolutely. Alan doesn't need them anymore. Hit continue, and that has moved all of Alan's stock for this particular product from him to Derek. So that when we go back to our stock levels report for that product code, what we should now see is that the only things appearing on here that have any stock is Derek, because he's got 4 that Alan gave him. Alan no longer has any, and the stores still have their 15. So test restock orders. When you go live with stock control, because I've just imported these afresh from a purchase order, I didn't set these. When you go live with them, these would be set. So let's do this one here that's got 19 in stock, the one ending in 55. If I edit our quantities here, I want to order 10 of them when we get down to 50. say. So the one ending in 55, there it is. You can see here there are reorder quantities there when we get to that level. So it's already below where it should be. When I go on our mobile app and I hit generate a restock order for Alan, on our stock menu, I mentioned the restock order button. So when Alan is running low on some stock, he's looking in his van going, yeah, I'm running a bit low on a few things here, or every week, or however long you want them to do this, he could hit restock order. And as you can see, product code ending in 55, Alan is going to generate a restock order for his preferred supplier, which is this supplier here, and that will raise a PO in the back office for that item for this supplier so he can get it restocked. Obviously, if there were loads of items, it would generate many lines and that would go on a PO in the back office for you to then approve and send over to the supplier, so that then when he then goes to the suppliers to collect his order, marking the delivery will then increase his stock of this item by that many. Just another word on the restock order. Basically, you need to set a default supplier against your operative. There's a field in operative setup for that. Again, as part of the whole setup, we would talk you through all of this anyway. However, I showed you it on that screen then. If you were to have an interface to a supplier, some of our customers do have interfaces to suppliers for their purchasing. If you have that in place, that would automatically interface over to the supplier anyway for you, so you wouldn't have to do it. That is me done. That's stock control. There is a set of YouTube videos already on stock control. I think there's 4, possibly 5. I can't remember. I should have made a note of that. It's broken each step down into sort of smaller videos. I put those together earlier this year when a customer went live on stock, and I thought it would be useful to have short, snappy videos about each of the processes that you've just seen today. Next month, as it says on screen, we're doing a webinar on Thursday again. It's the 18th of December, and this is all about client portal logins. We have got a lot of our customers already using these to great effect. If you've got any fears about having a client portal login because you think they'll be able to see all your financial data, log on the 18th of December and give it a watch, because I should hopefully be able to show you just how useful that is. And a lot of our clients are already using it to great effect. So as I say, Thursday, 18th of December. I'm going to do one last plug. We're having our Christmas social next week on Wednesday. We're having an open office session at our offices. You're welcome to come and join us, have a chat in the office, meet the team, ask some questions. And then we'll be heading out to Rain Bar, which is just sort of nearby to the Bridgewater Hall, just across the road from our office. And we'll have few drinks and we'll be doing our Christmas raffle, and it'd be lovely to see as many of you there. Thanks again for coming, and I'll see you all again on the next one. Cheers.